Blinding lights of the cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing George Strait ensconced in a shimmering halo of public attention. Surrounded by throngs of fans and journalists vying for his attention, he felt an all-too-familiar sense of suffocation. The smiles he offered were practiced, almost mechanical, as he signed one autograph after another. Each stroke of the pen only deepened the isolation that gnawed at him, the weight of expectations pressing heavily on his chest. "George, over here!" shouted a voice cutting through the noise. "What's your secret to staying at the top?" With this and other questions bombarding him, George felt the warmth of recognition morph into an uncomfortable heat. The attention that once thrilled him now suffocated him. Taken by a sudden desire to escape, he maneuvered through the crowd, each step feeling heavier. As he slipped out a side exit, the cool night air was a refreshing contrast to the chaos he had just left. He inhaled deeply, letting the scent of fresh grass and distant wildflowers fill his lungs. With a quick glance back, he climbed into his car and drove away from the glamorous facade of fame. After a winding drive, he arrived at the entrance of a modest orphanage. This place was a sanctuary, a refuge where he could shed the layers of his celebrity persona and return to the heart of who he was. As he stepped into the courtyard, laughter and shouts of children bounced off the old brick walls. The innocence surrounding him wrapped George in warmth, teasing out fragments of forgotten joy. As he took a moment to absorb the scene, the comforting sounds began to ease his mind. Just then, a soft voice reached his ears from a nearby room. It was gentle, almost tentative, yet full of a longing that resonated deep within him. He found himself pulled closer, drawn to the sound like a moth to a flame. Peeking through the door, he caught a glimpse of a young girl sitting on a windowsill, her legs swinging as she sang to herself. Her melody was filled with raw emotion, a sweet purity that wrapped around his heart, unveiling memories of family gatherings on warm Texas nights. The simplicity of her passion struck a chord in George, igniting a warmth in his chest. But with every note she sang, his own doubts whispered louder. Who was he to interrupt this moment? He, the star with golden records, felt overwhelmingly unworthy, and yet the yearning inside him surged. He wanted to reach out, to offer support, to connect through the music they shared. In that fleeting moment, George Strait stood there as both observer and participant, enraptured by a young girl's innocent song. He recognized that music had the power to bridge gaps, to foster connections, and something deep in him began to stir. This encounter felt like the beginning, a whisper of destiny beckoning to both him and the girl. Tonight would mark the dawn of a journey, a chance to uncover not only her hidden talent, but to rediscover the melodies of his own heart, interwoven by the threads of their shared dreams. Little did he know that this chance meeting would forever change the rhythm of their lives. As George lingered in the doorway, he felt the warmth of the girl's song enveloping him, drawing him in. Yet as he hesitated, his mind drifted back to memories that shaped him long before he stood under the harsh glare of the spotlight. Flashback. George was just a boy, age 12, sitting on the creaky porch of his family's home in Texas. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the fields. His father strummed a classic tune on an old guitar, the sound as familiar as the wind that rustled through the nearby cornstalks. George's mother joined in, her voice rising sweetly alongside his father's, a duet that created a warm cocoon around them. "Sing with us, George," his father said, nudging him gently. With timid hands, George picked up his own guitar, a gift from his grandfather that had seen better days but still held the memories of family love. He fumbled through the chords, but as he sang, the insecurities that threaded through his youthful heart melted away. The music blanketed him like a protective shield, and for a brief moment he felt invincible. End of flashback. Back in the orphanage, George's heart ached with nostalgia. Those memories of innocence and connection starkly contrasted with the performances he had given over the years, distant interactions filled with empty accolades. The deeper he fell into stardom, the more he felt disconnected from the fundamental joy of music. His thoughts were interrupted by the girl's voice fading, and he shifted his attention back to the present. He peered inside to see her still lost in her daydreams, sketching in a notebook with a small frown of concentration etched on her face. Outside, carefree laughter exploded from a group of children playing tag. George watched as they darted around, their joy infectious, yet he noticed the girl sitting alone, her vibrant spirit dimmed by self-doubt. It mirrored his own struggles, and the sight stirred something deep within him, a resolve to help. As he stepped further into the room, the girl noticed him, quickly shutting her notebook as her cheeks flushed red. George offered gently, crouching to meet her gaze. I heard you singing. You have a beautiful voice. Her eyes widened, and she bit her lip, uncertainty flickering in her expression. Thank you, she murmured, her gaze dropping into her lap. I'm George, he introduced himself, trying to break the ice. What's your name? Mia, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Mia, he repeated, testing the name on his tongue. That's a lovely name. Do you play the guitar? She shook her head, hesitating before adding, I wish I could, but... She paused, her eyes darting away. I just draw. George nodded, understanding. When I was a kid, I drew too, but music was always my first love. I think it's okay to try new things. As they conversed, Maria Sullivan, the orphanage director, entered the room, a warm smile lighting up her face when she saw George. George, I didn't expect to see you here, she greeted, her voice melodic. Thank you for coming to volunteer. The children adore when you visit. It's my pleasure, Maria, he replied, glancing back at Mia, whose gaze now flickered between excitement and apprehension. I'm just trying to connect, I guess. Maria nodded knowingly. That's wonderful. This little one here has incredible talent, but she's too shy to share it. Mia's cheeks flushed again, and she avoided their eyes, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sleeve. Everyone deserves to be heard, Mia, George encouraged. You can do anything you set your mind to, trust me. The world needs to hear your song. She looked up, surprise painted across her features. It was a moment of awakening, a tiny spark of encouragement kindling their connection. But the shadows of doubt lingered in her eyes. What if no one likes it? What if I mess up? Hesitantly, he shared, You know, the first time I sang on stage, I was terrified. I thought I'd forget the words, but I did it anyway. And you can too, Mia. Maria watched the exchange with understanding, her heart swelling at seeing the budding connection. Maybe we could find a way for you to practice together. Music can be a wonderful way to express yourself. I'd love that, George said, his voice filled with unexpected excitement. Mia looked hesitant but intrigued. Really? Yes, George replied, his eyes sparkling with sincerity. We could find an old guitar, and you can give it a shot. It's never too late to start. Mia grinned shyly, a flicker of hope shining in her dark eyes. That would be great. In that moment, George felt a shift within him. The walls of isolation he had built began to crack, and the urge to help this young girl awakened a long-buried desire within him. This innocent exchange could lead them both back to the roots of their passion, music, dreams, and the courage to embrace vulnerability. As they spoke and laughed, he knew this connection felt profound, as if the threads of their lives were weaving together in harmony. Little did they know this partnership would spark a journey neither had anticipated, sending ripples of healing through their hearts as they embraced the journey ahead. The following week brought palpable excitement to the orphanage. George arrived, guitar in hand, feeling as if he were stepping back into a cherished time of innocence. The sun shone brightly, spilling golden rays onto the worn wooden steps as he rapped lightly on the door. Hey, Mia, he called out. Ready for our music lesson? After a moment, the door swung open, revealing Mia with wide, sparkling eyes and a shy smile that lit up her face. I couldn't wait. Inside the small music room, the air buzzed with anticipation. George settled onto a rickety chair, patting the spot beside him. Come on, let's get you started. Mia took her seat, her nerves evident as she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. George reached for the guitar, strumming soft chords. First, let's go through some basics. Do you know any songs you like? She hesitated, brows furrowing in thought. I like the one you sang at the award show. Something about Amarillo. Amarillo by Morning, George exclaimed. That's a classic. Let's work on it together. He guided her through the song, patiently teaching the chords and rhythm while sharing the stories behind the lyrics, tales of love, loss, and hope. As they practiced, Mia's shyness began to melt away, her fingers slowly finding comfort in playing. Between songs, George narrated his journey, his laughter mixing with Mia's as he described overcoming his own fears. On one particular afternoon, he confided, When I got my first big break, I was terrified. I thought, what now? I was just a kid from Texas, wondering if I had the talent to back it up. Mia leaned closer, captivated. What happened? I was scared, but I did my best. The crowd was forgiving. They sang with me and helped me find my way. Mia absorbed his stories, feeling the powerful bond of encouragement spark within her. However, she shared her fears. What if I forget everything? What if no one sings with me? George smiled knowingly. Messing up is part of it, Mia. You grow from mistakes. When you get on stage, let the connection with the audience guide you. Days passed, filled with rehearsals, as Mia transformed under George's guidance. Her confidence grew, and laughter became more frequent. Then, during a practice, Maria, the orphanage director, walked in. "Are you planning to participate in the talent show?" she asked, a hopeful light in her eyes. Mia's confidence faltered for a moment. "I don't know, Maria," she said, anxiety creeping back in. George stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "You'll be okay. Just remember why you love music. That's what truly matters." Finally gathering her resolve, Mia took a deep breath. "All right, I'll do it," she announced, her determination shining bright. The days leading up to the talent show passed quickly, their rehearsals intensifying. Mia embraced the thrill of performing rather than letting fear take over, immersing herself in the joy of sharing her music. As the big night approached, George felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. On the night of the talent show, under bright lights and in front of a buzzing audience, the stage seemed both intimidating and exhilarating. As they stepped onto the platform, George glanced at Mia, offering an encouraging nod. Her heart raced, but the moment she remembered their countless rehearsals, the bond they had forged through music ignited a spark of bravery within her. Soon, as George strummed the opening chords, Mia began to sing. The sound poured out of her, unencumbered by fear, and for the first time she truly felt the music. It resonated in the room, creating waves of connection that wrapped around her and the audience alike. Each note transformed into a celebration. For Mia, this was more than just a performance. It was an affirmation of her voice, her story, and the journey they had taken together. The shadows of doubt that once loomed over her faded as the raw power of her passion took center stage. Little did they know that the night would mark a turning point, not only for Mia but for George as well. Under the hot stage lights, each moment brought him closer to rediscovering his own purpose. As they shared their music, they both realized they were building a dream that transcended their individual desires, one of connection, healing, and shared growth. The applause rang resoundingly in George's ears, drowning out the doubts that clouded his heart for far too long. Mia's face radiated pure joy, a transformation that reignited something inside him, a reflection of the joy and love he had once known. The talent show had marked a turning point, not just for Mia, but for him as well. In the days following the show, Mia became a beacon of inspiration within the orphanage. Children flocked to her, eager to hear about her performance, her eyes sparkling with excitement. George watched with gratitude as she blossomed, her confidence growing with every interaction. No longer the shy girl hiding in the background, she was emerging as a budding star. One warm afternoon, they sat together on the porch steps as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold and rose. George strummed his guitar, and Mia looked on, captivated. "I want to write my own songs now," she suddenly declared, her determination vibrant. "Absolutely," George encouraged, a swell of pride filling him. "What do you want to write about?" Mia paused, glancing toward the horizon. "I want to write about feeling scared, but then finding courage, like on stage." "Perfect," George replied, excited by the direction. "Everyone can relate to that journey. Let's put your story into music." With that, the two began a creative companionship. Every day, Mia would hum melodies, and George would add chords, their collaboration becoming a joyful escape. However, beneath their shared laughter, George battled his own memories, a lingering sorrow over the loss of his wife that often snuck into their music. Later that week, George found himself alone on the porch, lost in thought as he strummed softly. The strumming turned into a song, and before he knew it, his voice rose, tinted with melancholy. Just as he reached a high note, Mia appeared at the doorway, drawn by the sound. "What are you singing, George?" she asked, her curiosity shining through. "Just an old tune," he said, glancing away, unsure of how to reveal his heart. "It sounds sad," she said, concern pouring from her tone. "Is it about you?" It struck him hard, a question that required vulnerability. "It's about loss," he admitted, his voice low. "Music lets us express what we struggle to articulate." "Oh," Mia said softly, taking a seat beside him. "Like how I felt before I sang?" "Exactly," he nodded. "Music connects our emotions, both the good and the painful." In that moment, her words washed over him, enlightening his heart. He realized he could bleed his pain into their music as a way to heal. Maybe Mia's innocence could help mend the parts of himself that had long been fractured. "Let's write a song together, about our journeys," he suggested, hope swelling within him. "Your courage and my moving on, something beautiful." Her face lit up. "Yes, I'd love that." Thus began their creative whirlwind. They spent weeks weaving together lyrics that spoke of loss and growth, a collaboration where vulnerability met hope. Through music, George revealed his love for his wife, sharing stories of their adventures, while Mia poured her soul into the lyrics. One afternoon, beneath the old oak tree, they wrote the chorus together. Mia put words to the music, vividly painting the contrast between fear and courage. Each line flowed naturally, highlighting their shared experiences, and with every note, George felt the heaviness in his heart begin to lighten. As they practiced late into the evenings, George saw Mia flourish, no longer just a student, but a true collaborator. She brought energy that ignited something within him, his desire to connect and share stories that mattered. The days grew warmer as the performance night loomed closer. Anxiety intertwined with excitement. The gathering was anticipated eagerly by everyone at the orphanage. In the final days leading up to the show, George and Mia found themselves on the porch, the air thick with anticipation. "What if no one likes our song?" Mia whispered fearfully one evening, looking down at her hands. "Then we do it for ourselves," George replied gently, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Music is about connection, but it should also feel true to us. Regardless of the outcome, it will mean something." His words wrapped around her like a warm embrace. They spent that night polishing their song, laughter mingling with the chords as they perfected every detail. Finally, the night of the performance arrived. The air crackled with excitement, and George's heart raced as they stood backstage, the sounds of eager chatter filling the hall. He glanced at Mia, whose wide eyes mirrored his apprehension and excitement. "Remember what we practiced. Just feel it," he urged, meeting her gaze with a reassuring smile. When they stepped onto the stage, blinding lights illuminated them. The buzz of the audience faded into an anxious silence, as if the entire world was holding its breath. George strummed the guitar, and with that familiar sound, the magic began. As Mia began to sing, her voice broke through the tension, trembling yet powerful. The raw emotion flowed out, drawing the room in as if enveloping everyone in a shared moment of connection. Each note became a celebration of their journey, a testament to overcoming fear and embracing vulnerability. George watched as Mia transformed, her initial nerves evaporating in the warmth of the moment. Together, they sang not only of pain, but of healing, their stories intertwined, resonating with everyone present. As they finished, the audience erupted into applause, a wave of warmth washing over them. In that moment, George felt liberated. The shadows that had haunted him for so long began to melt away. Through the power of song, they found solace, not just as performers, but as kindred spirits healing together. As lights dimmed and applause lingered in the air, they knew this was merely the beginning, a rebirth born from music, connection, and the ever-unfolding journey toward healing. In the wake of their performance, the atmosphere around the orphanage transformed. Excitement fluttered through the air like the flurry of 1,000 butterflies. George and Mia became local heroes, their music a source of inspiration for the children, who now saw the magic of possibility in their own lives. However, amidst the joy, George felt an unfamiliar pressure pressing down on him. The reality of performing had unearthed emotions he thought he had buried. The dazzling light of the stage temporarily brightened his world, but the afterward came with shadows creeping back in. As the enthusiasm from their victory began to settle, the whisper of self-doubt returned, a reminder of his past failures, his wife's absence, and the fear of materials that never truly left him. One evening, as he sat alone in his room, strumming the guitar quietly, the melancholy crept back in. He closed his eyes, overwhelmed by memories of the love he had lost and the dreams they had shared. The guitar felt disconnected from him, a mere object silent in his grief, and for the first time since writing with Mia, he set it down. Days passed, and George became increasingly withdrawn. He avoided rehearsals and their music sessions, slipping into a quiet solitude. Mia noticed the change, her wide-eyed excitement dimming with each passing day as she watched the mentor she had come to admire pull away. "Mia," Maria called one day after dinner, summoning her into the garden. "George hasn't been himself lately. Have you talked to him?" Mia shrugged, looking down. "He's been distant. I can't figure out why." "Think about it like this," Maria said gently, her hands resting on Mia's shoulders. "Sometimes people face their inner battles alone. He might need you to reach out." Determined, Mia took a deep breath. She spent the next couple of days working on a surprise for George. She remembered the energy they had exchanged on stage, and seeing him in the grip of sadness pushed her to take the initiative. Eventually, as dusk settled one evening, Mia quietly approached George's door. She knocked softly, the sound echoing in the stillness. The door creaked open to reveal George, his gaze distant, as if he were staring right past her. "Hey George, I wanted to show you something," Mia said, holding up a piece of paper with scribbled lyrics. He looked hesitant, his expression a mix of surprise and fatigue. "What is it?" "It's a new song I wrote," she replied, excitement bubbling beneath her timid exterior. "But I really want to play it for you, and I'd love your feedback." "What's it about?" he asked. Curiosity piqued momentarily. "It's about being hopeful even when things feel dark," she admitted, her cheeks flushing. "I wrote it for you. I think it could help." With a soft chuckle, he shook his head. "You don't need to write songs for me, kid. I'm not really in a place for music right now." Her determination intensified, and she stepped closer. "That's exactly why you need to hear it. We're a team, remember? We write together. But you need to let me in." George noticed the intensity of her gaze. The same courage that had propelled her on stage danced in her eyes. He realized he couldn't shut her out. At that moment, he decided to sit down beside her on the front porch steps, inhaling the sweet, fading scent of summer. "All right then," he said, propping the guitar on his knee. "Let's hear it." With encouragement, Mia cleared her throat and began to sing. Her voice was soft, but grew stronger with each passing moment, wrapping around the words like a gentle hug. The notes soared and dipped, weaving through her anxieties, her heartbeat metronomic to the hopeful melody. With every lyric, George felt the air shift, something stirring inside him. The weight of his past began to lift as he listened. When Mia finished, a heartbeat hung between them before applause erupted in a single hand clap. George's. "That was incredible," he said, eyes brightening. "You've got a gift, Mia." She beamed at his words, and the unspoken bond between them deepened. "It felt freeing," Mia confessed. "But I'm worried about you, George. You can't shut out the music." "I know," he sighed, the shadows returning. "It's just hard. Sometimes the past looms so large and I don't know how to move forward." Mia rested her head against her knees, pondering. "You showed me how to be brave, to embrace the music. Maybe it's time you let your past fuel your future. Let it be part of your story instead of a weight. There is still so much left to create." "Let it be part of my story," he echoed, considering her words. Maybe she was right. He had buried his grief and kept it locked away. Perhaps it was time to channel it into the music they created together. "How about we work on that new song you wrote?" he suggested, a flicker of hope returning. "Let's take it to the stage." A smile broke across her face. "Really? You mean it?" "Absolutely," he replied, reassured by the warmth of connection they shared. "Let's turn our stories into a celebration, one that heals." They spent countless hours writing, laughing, and rehearsing. Mia brought her youthful energy, while George infused it with his depth of emotion. Together, they crafted melodies that soared through the air, resonating with a message of resilience and love. As the performance date approached, George felt a newfound passion. The loneliness that had threatened to drown him was exchanged for a sense of unity and purpose. Their music intertwined as they delved deeper, with each note peeling away layers of distrust in himself. On the night of their next show, the energy in the room was electric. As they stood together backstage, Mia glanced nervously at George, but found comfort in the determination reflected in his eyes. "Remember," he said, squeezing her hand, "we're sharing tonight, not just with the audience, but with each other." With that, they stepped out, the lights bursting to life around them. The audience greeted them with inviting applause, and the warmth enveloped them. George strummed the guitar, and as Mia began to sing the first notes of their song, the world melted away. Their voices blended seamlessly, an expression of healing and shared stories. Each chorus grew louder, a testament to courage and overcoming. As the final note echoed through the room, they were met with a standing ovation. Tears prickled at the corners of George's eyes, filled with gratitude for Mia's unwavering spirit. This journey wasn't merely about the music, it was about building bridges between their pasts and future and between each other. Amidst the applause, George realized that this was a moment of reconciliation, not just with Mia, but with himself. Through every line sung, they had come alive in a new way, casting aside the darkness and embracing the light of hope. The rhythm of their lives danced together now, woven with the threads of shared pain, joy, and an indomitable spirit willing to sing and love again. As the applause faded and the lights dimmed, George and Mia stepped off the stage, breathless from the exhilaration of their performance. The warmth of the audience's appreciation wrapped around them like a comforting blanket, a sense of collective healing resonating through the entire room. "Did you feel that?" Mia exclaimed, her face glowing. "They loved us." A soft smile broke through George's initial hesitation. "Yeah, Mia, it was incredible. You were amazing up there." As they shared this moment, a sense of unity was palpable, but George felt an undercurrent of tension lingering beneath his joy. While their music had brought them closer, the journey ahead felt uncertain. The orphanage offered a refuge, but George's mind was troubled. He found himself at a crossroads, torn between the safety of the life they had built together and the larger world outside that beckoned him back to the stage, a world filled with memories of loss, as well as the opportunity for genuine connection. As they celebrated with the other children and staff, laughter and smiles echoed around them, though George struggled to fully engage. Every cheer reminded him of nights spent pursuing fame and losing sight of what truly mattered. He quickly glanced at Mia, whose eyes shone with ambition and dreams of what was next. Later that evening, with the buzz of excitement subsiding, George found solace on the steps of the orphanage, guitar in hand. He stared out into the darkening sky, illuminated only by the soft glimmer of stars. The silence was thick. He could hear the faint laughter of the children inside, while conflicting emotions swirled in him. "Mia's got dreams," he murmured to himself. "And what about mine?" The music had always been his escape, a way to cope with pain. It was a double-edged sword, the source of his joy and also the catalyst for his fears. He pondered the road ahead. Would he leave the security of the orphanage for the unpredictable world of music again? The next morning, Mia knocked gently on his door. Seeing him lost in thought, she stepped inside quietly. "Hey, George, you all right?" He turned to face her, swallowing hard. "Yeah, just thinking." "I've been thinking too," Mia said, her voice laced with eagerness. "What's next for us? We should take our songs out into the world. There are so many other people who could benefit from hearing our story." George held her gaze, his heart weighed down. "I don't know, Mia. I mean, it's one thing to perform here, but going outside, what if we fail?" Mia's enthusiasm dimmed for a brief moment, before she leaned in closer, her expression steadfast. "But what if we don't? What if we touch someone's heart? We can't be afraid to try, George. This is our chance to inspire others, just like we inspired ourselves." Her words held a raw sincerity that struck deep within him, igniting the flicker of courage he had set aside. Still, a part of George remained terrified, the thought of stepping back into the spotlight, with the specter of his past haunting each step. "Mia, He hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared. I've been hurt by this life before. I'm not sure I'm ready to open that part of me again." For a moment, silence enveloped them, thick with uncertainty. But then, Mia reached out and placed a small hand on his arm. "It's okay to be scared. I am too. But aren't we stronger together? You've taught me how to face my fears. You helped me find my voice. You shouldn't let fear silence yours." The power of her conviction resonated within George, igniting a flame of hope. "You're right," he admitted, drawing a deep breath. "We are strong together." Mia's eyes sparkled as her optimism rekindled. "Then let's write some more songs. Let's put together a set, and we can find a venue for an open mic or something. We'll get out there." George couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm, the exchanged energy lifting him. "Okay, let's do it." But we need to be prepared. We've got to give it everything. As they spent the following weeks rehearsing and refining their set, the bond between them deepened further. They pieced together a collection of songs, weaving together their experiences and hopes of love, courage, pain, and possibility. In the quiet moments, George found himself pouring his heart into the lyrics and melodies, confronting the fears that had lingered silently within. Music became a release, transforming his fear into something beautiful. He felt like he was moving through a chapter of healing, one note at a time. However, the day before their first open mic night, George felt the old doubt creeping back in. He wanted to be strong for Mia, but unease fell upon him heavy as lead. That evening, under a blanket of stars, he gathered his thoughts before heading inside. Suddenly, he heard the strum of a guitar and the unmistakable sound of Mia singing softly in the distance. Curiosity led him towards the sound, and he found her perched on the edge of a wooden bench, strumming her guitar, immersed in her music. She looked so alive, the light from a lantern casting a warm glow around her. "Just practicing." She glanced up, her smile infectious. "Want to join?" Trying to shake off the weight of his uncertainty, he cleared his throat. "Mia, I'm feeling apprehensive about tomorrow night." She stopped strumming, setting the guitar down beside her. "What's worrying you?" "It's just, I don't want to fail," he confessed, releasing a heavy sigh. "What if they don't like us? What if it's all for nothing?" Her eyes softened with understanding. "You taught me to face my fears, but it's okay if you're scared. That just means it matters. We can't control what others think, but we can control how we feel about the music. We can own it." "Own it," he repeated, the words echoing in his mind. "Yes, let's be proud of our journey, George. The songs are our stories. Regardless of how it goes tomorrow, they matter. To us." The sincerity in her voice struck something profound, pulling him further away from the ledge of self-doubt. He took a moment, allowing her words to sink in, the flicker of hope reigniting. "You're right," he finally replied, a small smile breaking through. "We can't let fear stop us from sharing what we've created, together." Over the next few hours, the two of them shared music and memories, comforting each other in vulnerability, foretelling a new chapter yet to unfold. In the fading light, George realized that fear was part of the journey, the essence of transformation. They would walk through it together, embracing each moment as it came. As night fell on the orphanage, George finally felt lighter. The crossroads lay ahead. He could choose to let fear control him, or he could step forward into the unknown. And as long as he had Mia by his side, he was ready to embrace whatever came next. The next evening, anticipation crackled in the air as George and Mia arrived at the cozy venue for the open mic night. The walls were lined with photographs of prior performers, capturing the essence of the music that had graced the stage. A mix of local talent and onlookers filled the room, nervous energy palpably weaving through the crowd. Mia's eyes sparkled with excitement. "This is it, George, our chance to finally share our music." George felt a familiar pang of nerves but met it with determination. "Let's do this," he affirmed, taking a deep breath. Reassured by Mia's energy, they walked boldly toward the stage, the spotlight soon to be theirs. "Good evening, everyone," Mia greeted, her voice bright and inviting as the audience quieted. "We're thrilled to share our song with you tonight. It means a lot to us." As George began to strum the first chords, the anxiety dissolved. Mia's voice soared through the air, the melody carrying their hopes and fears. Together, they poured their hearts into the song, transforming their shared experiences into a beautiful narrative of resilience. With every note, George rediscovered the joy of performing, feeling connected with the audience in an intimate, transformative way. As they reached the chorus, he locked eyes with Mia, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. They were sharing something profound, a story of overcoming fear and embracing vulnerability. The performance felt like a release, and the crowd embraced them with enthusiastic applause. Once they stepped off stage, people flocked to congratulate them. "That was incredible," someone exclaimed. Another person echoed sentiments of connection and admiration. George turned to Mia, palpable excitement between them. "Did you hear that? They loved us." "I can't believe it," she exclaimed, joy radiating from her. "We shared our truth, and they connected with it." The rest of the night buzzed with possibilities as Mia listened intently to the crowd's encouragement. "Imagine what we could do," she said, eyes wide. We should write more music and perform everywhere. The whole world deserves to hear our stories. George felt the warmth of her ambition sparking something in him. You're right. We can't let fear stop us from sharing our journey. As the evening wound down, George's heart was lighter, buoyed by their success and the sense of community that had formed. The fear that had once gripped him was a shadow behind them now. They had ventured into the unknown, and it had transformed into a beautiful experience. Later that night, the moonlight painted the sidewalk as they made their way back to the orphanage. Filled with hope and determination, George felt empowered by the connection they had forged, not only with their audience, but with each other. There's so much more we can explore together, George mused, embracing the potential of the road ahead. What if we aim for a town festival, or even a record competition? Absolutely, Mia chirped, enthusiasm bubbling over. Or we can just keep going. There's a whole world of music waiting for us. The journey ahead seemed vast, but with Mia by his side, George felt ready to embrace whatever lay in their path. Each step they had taken, bound by shared courage, was leading to something beautiful. As they continued to talk, imaginations woven together, George realized they had stepped beyond mere performance. They were crafting a narrative, a journey of hope, resilience, and an unyielding friendship. With every note, every story, they were forging ahead into a new chapter, ready to face the challenges, the joys, and the music yet to come. Together, they weren't just surviving the journey. They were celebrating life, its rhythms, its melodies, and the powerful connections that music can create.